Hi, my name's Natalie Martinez, and I am the broker here at Go Home Realty in Lexington.
And I am Stephanie Novoa, and I am a realtor here at Go Home Realty.
So one question that I've been getting asked quite a bit lately, and I think...
So have I.
Okay. And it comes in different variations, but basically what people are asking is, when are prices going to drop? When are, have I lost all that equity in my home? Is now a bad time to buy? Is the market going to crash? Is the bubble going to burst? Any variation of, are the prices that people were paying for homes going to be lower moving forward than what they have been for the last couple of years, where we've seen such a steady increase in values over time? Mm-hmm. Is that...
Yes, that's along the same lines, a variation of, our home price is going to drop. And I think today we want to address some of that.
So have you had an answer for them when they ask this question?
I wish I had a crystal ball and I could tell everyone the right answer, but no. But I think we can go back, historically on what has happened in the past and kind of just some facts that are, currently present, and that's what we want to address today.
I agree. So I kind of got a little nerdy, and to be fair, we attempted to do this last week and we just had some technical issues. So the rates I'm working with actually are just a tad bit lower this week than what they were last week when I prepared my numbers, but it's still a good example. So what we're looking at, and the big issue is mortgage rates. The idea is that they have increased the prime rate, mortgage rates, in order to curb inflation. Now reports are saying inflation is slowing, and so they're going to potentially stop raising rates, which is a good sign for all of us. Based on the current rate, which in my example is 6.75, today as we're recording it's closer to 6.5, but we're just going to roll with 6.75. Mm-hmm. If you had bought a home about, in the last 8 months or a year ago, so historically homes were pretty high valued, say 8 months ago, and an average nice home in our area is looking right around the $250,000 mark. So I did run a few numbers on those and figured if you were to buy a $250,000 home at 2.75%, which was one of the really great rates that we had holding steady for quite a while. Mm-hmm. The total of all your payments over 30 years of that loan, you would end up repaying $356,400. So you bought the home for $250,000, and in 30 years you will have paid a total of $356,400. That seems like a lot, but when you consider the value of the home 30 years from now, you're not doing too bad. The example today, some of our buyers said, oh, it's a terrible time to buy, we're going to wait for prices to come down. Well, unfortunately, prices and rates are very closely related. And if rates are high, prices may come down a little bit. You have people who need to sell homes, they're relocating or whatever. And let's say they waited, somebody gave them advice and said, hold off, you can save some money. So they go today and they won't find that same home for $240,000. So they save $10,000 and it seems like a good deal. I'd like an extra $10,000, right?
I would too.
Right.
Why not?
So, unfortunately, with today's rate at 6.75%, the total of all your payments would actually be $543,600. That is almost a $200,000 increase. So, based on that, total sticker price of more than $200,000 increase, I can see why people are shocked. However, we do have a possible way for you to work around this. And right now, what's going around the industry, you may have heard it, or this might be the first time. And what are we calling it?
Marry the house, date the rate.
Marry the house and date the rate. I love it. So the idea is, if you're in a rental, you probably don't love your house. You probably don't want to marry it, or, it's already taken. So if you're going to be out in the market and you're looking for a home, you want to own your own home and you're capable of owning your own home, meaning you qualify for your loan, you have the credit, you have the ability to pay back that loan, even if it seems to be at what you feel is an unreasonably high interest rate. So if you're in that position and the Only thing holding you back is that total payment, that $543,000, or the idea that you don't want to have a good rate because you know somebody who got a better rate back in time. Then this is good news for you because we have a possible workaround for you. Let's take that second example. You found the house at $240,000, but your rate is 6.75. You have the option of paying that, getting into your home, making it your own, building your equity, and starting out and accepting that rate, let's say for 4 years. At the end of 4 years, now I didn't explain, in these examples, I assume a 3% down payment. So that's the minimum typically that you can do to get a conventional 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So if you have a 3% down payment today on a $240,000 home, and then you make those payments for 4 years, a couple things are going to happen. You're going to pay down a little bit on your equity, the amount that you've actually borrowed. You will owe the bank a little bit less. And your home will have been accumulating more value for 4 years. An average over time is about 5% per year that it's going to appreciate. So your home is a great investment. It's going to continue to increase in value, albeit a bit slower than it has been. We're not going to be looking at those 8 and 10% rates probably for a couple years at least. So that's the good news. You can do that for 4 years. At the end of 4 years, now you have some equity because your home has increased in value and you've paid down some loan. Now you have a 20% equity approximately. And you can go back, say rates have dropped a little bit. You can refinance your home at a lower rate. In my example, we estimated that it goes down to 3.5%. So you go out, you get a new loan, they refinance, and now you have a new 30 years to pay it off. At the end of those 34 years, you will have paid $445,800. That's a savings of almost exactly $100,000 difference versus just keeping the rate that you'd be able to get today. So that sounds kind of crazy. I mean, to save $100,000 by extending things out by 4 years, but it really can work. And that's because you're going to marry that house and you're going to stay in it and you're going to build your value, but you're only going to date the rate because if things don't work out or something better comes along, you can always switch it up. I wasn't sure anybody would believe me about my projections, 5% appreciation, et cetera. So I thought, let's go back in time. So I looked up average home values and average interest rates for November of 1992. That would be 30 years ago, way before your time. So 30 years ago, the average home value, now this is nationwide, the average home value was $121,500. Not far off from some of the homes we have around here. But the average interest rate in November for a fixed rate conventional loan was 8.3%. 8.3. And they had no problem selling homes. So the total payments, if you had bought that home in 1992, you would have paid $320,000 or $324,000. So $320,000, $400 over the course of 30 years for a $121,000 house. Sounds like a lot, but 30 years later, guess what the average home value is now? $348,000. So if you're just working with these averages, you're still coming out ahead. You still have equity over and above what you actually spent to purchase that house. If it worked in 1992, it will work in 2022. So I guess the point that we're trying to make is if you're ready to buy a home and you're qualified and you want to go, but you just have this hang up about not wanting to pay over a certain price or thinking that you're going to get a better deal or thinking that you're going to wait for better deals to come around like they used to be. Unless you got a time machine, you're probably not going to. So you still have opportunities and don't get hung up on what used to be because you could have bought a really nice home in the 1950s for about $2,500. Waiting for prices to go back to $2,500 is not going to get you into a home. Waiting for prices to go back to where interest rates were 2.75 8 months ago is not going to get you into a home. And it's not even going to save you interest, really, because what do they say about rent?
You pay 100% interest on rent.
Exactly. None of that is for you. None of that is building your wealth. So I think the important thing is no distinction has really been made between price and value. And we saw a lot of this when everybody thought that just because they owned a piece of property that gave them like a golden ticket or a blank check, they could name their price. It was, if my neighbor sold their house last week for $150,000, I'm going to sell it next week for $175,000. And it kind of went around, not so much in our area. I think we kept things a little more closer to normal than they do, out on the coasts. But we did still see some of that where people thought they just had some gold in their pocket. But I think what's really important to understand is how these homes are valued. Can you explain a little bit about how somebody even establishes the value of a home?
Yeah, so when you go and apply for a loan and you want to purchase a house, the bank is actually going to require an appraisal. And so they hire an appraiser to go out and establish value for that home.
So once they establish the value for the home, I mean, that's a process, right?
Yes.
They don't just go, I like it. My neighbor next door, he's pretty cool. So there's an extra 10 grand.
No, that's not how it works.
Okay. So establishing value.
Okay, so an appraiser goes out and appraises a property. Basically how they do that is based on price per square foot, and they choose comparable properties that sold recently that are matching the same.
They match some same criteria, whether it's either the actual age of the house or what they call the functional age of the house. It could be an older home with updates. It could be the type of home and the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. So they try to get as close as possible, and they have this magical formula where they make adjustments to be sure that what they're estimating for a home's value is accurate or as accurate as possible. And then they put their stamp on it. I don't think they actually have a stamp, but they put their signature on it that says this is a legitimate value based on trends that have already been occurring. And those take time to establish. We actually had, when home prices were first starting to go up back in 2020, and there was such a shortage of homes available, prices started going up quickly because of supply and demand. People were willing to pay for them more than what the appraisers could justify. So we actually had some homes that had a contract price on them, and the appraiser said, I can't justify that value. I don't have enough historical evidence to justify that value.
However, people were willing to pay that.
Yes, and many did. They paid above appraisal, which was a whole different thing. And the good news is I don't think we're going to be looking at that anytime in the near future. However, you can take that same concept and reverse it, and that's how it affects prices going down. So in order to have prices go down from an appraiser's perspective, they have to have that same history, but this time they need to have a history of prices declining. And that is what has not happened. That's what happened back in 2008. It's not happening now. Well, how about you? You've been active in the market. Have you seen appraisers coming in and saying that homes are worth less than the agreed upon contract? The appraiser might come in and say this home's worth $158,016 per square foot, but if that seller really needs to sell that home because they're relocating or because they're having some sort of personal situation that they need to sell the home, they may sell it lower than market value. So if you see anyone saying prices are dropping, there may be a case-by-case situation where the prices are coming down because individuals are up against a wall. But as far as that happening on a large scale, based on our limited inventory that we're still facing, I don't anticipate that happening anytime in the next foreseeable future, which in our industry is probably about 6 months. So I guess all that is to say, are prices dropping? Maybe on a case-by-case basis if a home needs to be sold. Are values dropping?
I don't think so. That's not what we're seeing.
That's not what we're seeing. It would take a lot of instances of people lowering a price on a particular property and then having that price be recorded and used as a comparable in the future in order to see that overall trend winding down. So I would say we don't have a value problem. Technically, we don't even have an interest rate problem. Historically speaking, these are not high rates. There were high rates in the 80s, and even some, as we've seen, back in the 90s, but these are not even close to those yet. So it's overall, qualifying for a mortgage is still within reason for some people. If you qualify, paying rent longer than you have to is probably not going to be in your best interest. Obviously, I'm not a financial planner. Talk to your, consult with your own financial planners. Mm-hmm. But the main thing is we don't want to see the panic. We would like to see buyer confidence return. I really feel that is what has been dropping off, not prices, not the interest rates going up. It's been the confidence in the system, and it would just be great to see that coming back around with people actually being educated by facts instead of headlines and clickbait trying to scare us into a mortgage crisis, because that's quite frankly just not what we're facing, not historically.
So if you find yourself on the edge and you still want to buy, and you still, you just don't know what move to take next, find a realtor that's going to guide you through the process, that's going to educate you, that's going to lay out the facts, and just make you feel confident about, being able to buy. We are here to help you through that process.
Right. And I think what you said is really important. When you work with an agent, there are a lot of really good agents out there that are knowledgeable and have experience with all sorts of markets. If they have the ability to teach you and guide you and help you through this process, that's great. They need to understand the market. They need to understand those trends and how those affect you, not just today compared to yesterday, but today compared to tomorrow, and what that means for you and for your family or your situation moving forward. If your realtor can't sit down and have this conversation with you, please interview someone else until they can, because we are here to consult. We don't just turn on lights and cash checks. We really are here to help you, and we look forward to doing that. If you have any questions, or even if you're outside our market area and you would like a referral to a quality agent capable of helping you in your area, we can help you with that too. We have a network of fantastic people that we work with all across the country. So please feel free to reach out, like and subscribe, all of that stuff down there. We're just getting started, so be nice. But the one big takeaway is, don't forget, you always have the option to marry the house and only date the rate.
Yes. So if you find yourself needing, some guidance or would like to consult with us, again, I'm Stephanie Novoa at Go Home Realty in Lexington, and I also do speak Spanish if you need help with that.
Yeah, and our office manager also speaks Spanish, so feel free to call us, email, or reach out to us on our website. And all of our contact information and links are below. Again, I'm Natalie Martinez. I'm the broker and owner here at Go Home Realty in Lexington, Nebraska.